Hello and welcome to another episode of Sterling Live. My name is Caitlin Brower and I'm Sterling's social media manager. Sterling Live is our weekly live series on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. We come to you week after week. Usually it's on Tuesdays at 1 p.m., but it's Thursday, it's Veterans Day, and it's 12:30. So we're throwing you a bit of a curveball this week, but we've done it in the past. But we are here. It is Veterans Day, like I had just said. I have two phenomenal guests with me today. As you can see, they are above me on screen right here. And also want to shout out this incredible new branding that we have for Sterling Live. A lot of colors, a lot of cool things going on. So shout out to the team that made that possible. I love just giving you all the best of the best each week. And now it just looks really cool, the best of the best each week. So let's not delay this any further and let's get into today's episode. So I do want to introduce our very special guests to you. So first and foremost, we have Darren Gowen. He's our Senior Proposal Manager at Sterling, and Jenna Gardner, Employee Experience Leader. So as you can see, the topic is at the bottom of the screen here. It is Veterans Day, thanking and hiring veterans in our workforce. So before we get into our topic, I would love for our guests to introduce themselves. So Darren, I will hand it over to you first. Can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Darren Gowen. I'm a Senior Proposal Manager here at Sterling. I've been with Sterling a short time, 8 months. Before that, I was at G4S Secure Solutions as a Proposal Manager for about 8 years. I served about 20 years in the U.S. courts in federal probation and 6 years in the U.S. Air Force back when I was 20 years old.
That's great. Thank you for introducing yourself and thank you for being on the show today. Jenna, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I am no stranger, as people have probably
She's been on many episodes.
Many times, and I enjoy it. I'm loving the new branding. Really throwing us one here. Jenna Gardner, I've been at Sterling for almost 5 years. As Caitlin mentioned, my role is employee experience. So I really, I try to create a culture where employees can show up at their best, engage in different programs for further growth and enjoy their journey at Sterling. And Darren, I hope that we have you for many years as you were at your last company. So yes, that's what I do here.
Definitely. Keep them on board for sure. At this time, I want to remind our audience, if you're watching live on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, if you have any questions for Darren or Jenna throughout the show, please go ahead in the comment section across all three of these platforms and put your questions or your comments in, and I will get them over to these two as I see fit throughout the episode. I would like to start today's episode by obviously thanking all of our veterans. Truly appreciate everything that you do, especially to Darren. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you to all of Sterling's employees that were in the military. Thank you for your service. We truly do appreciate it. So on behalf of Sterling, we would like to say thank you for your service. So let's go ahead and get into our episode. So Darren, I want to start with you. We obviously have a ton of questions for you, but to kick things off, I just want to give our audience an overview of Veterans Day. So, maybe the actual definition of it, your definition of it, how it means to you. So,
well, yeah, since 1954, we celebrated Veterans Day as a national holiday on November 11th. There's Memorial Day in May where we honor the people who died serving in the armed forces, and Veterans Day commemorates everybody who served in the armed forces for the United States. Today, there are approximately 19 million veterans among us. That's about 10% of our population from all walks of life. So veterans are among us. They're part of our fabric of our country.
Absolutely. No, and I think I love the actual definition and then your little spin on it for sure.
I'm glad you asked that question because we're a global company and it might not be like the definition of Veterans Day might not be known or even between Veterans Day and Memorial Day. So that's very helpful.
Very helpful for sure.
Well, if you think about it, September 11th is kind of when everything transformed for our country. We have, the World War I and World War II veterans, the Korean War, the Vietnam War veterans, had a period of peacetime, with different various conflicts where our military was called into action. September 11th changed everything, where we had years of war on a war footing, combat, troops, and it takes a big team. So it's Veterans Day is everybody the millions of people that served on and participated in the deployment of forces throughout these years. In most present times, you've got a lot of combat troops. They come back. Their war doesn't end because of some things they've seen. So we need to remember that.
Yeah,
absolutely. So let's shift gears in the conversation. Let's talk about veterans in the workforce. So Darren, can you tell us how your experience as a veteran has played such an important role in your current success in Sterling?
Well,
and prior to Sterling too.
Well, I enlisted in the Air Force at 20 years of age, and and any veteran will tell you that you go to basic training or boot camp, and they take everything away from you, and the main thing is service to your country comes first.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, the needs of the Air Force comes first before you or your family. That's kind of a punch in the face when you first enter the service. And then they build you back up. You learn the rules. There's a lot of rules and regulations in the military, and that's for a purpose so that everything can be done in a certain way. If we have to project troops or deploy troops overseas or somewhere, it's done in an orderly fashion. So all those rules are very necessary. As part of that, you develop your strengths and you learn what your weaknesses are. In my case, project management skills was a strength for me that really helped me when I deployed over in Turkey. And I was always very good at writing. So all these rules have to be written. And when things change, who's the guy that gets to write the rules? That tended to be me. And so I had, a lot of opportunities for education. I, achieved a bachelor's degree and master's degree in my 6 years of enlistment. Learned my vocation in the military, which was telecommunications systems, and became a technical training instructor at the end of my 6 years. So I learned a lot that carried me into my civilian career in the U.S. courts, again, with the project management, with the writing. Then as a proposal manager, because I was in the government, my proposal management skills were really good for proposals to government prospective clients. At
Sterling, perfect fit.
Right. Develop proposals for government and education prospective clients, which is different from commercial because they have a lot of rules because they have to be accountable to the taxpayer. And so proposals have to be compliant. And what we say at Sterling we're going to do, we have to deliver on that. So that's really important. So that's where it all came from and where I'm at now.
Yeah. A lot of different things, over that time frame that you were able to do, opportunities. So I think it's great to look at that timeline that you just mapped out and to see where you are today at Sterling. Like I'd made the joke like perfect fit, but it really does, like at the end of the day, seem like a perfect fit. So it's great to see, that journey and where it took you to now. So I know you mentioned a couple of skills and skill sets that helped you, get you to where you are, but are there other top skills and skill sets that you've taken from your time in the military and translated it over to what you're doing at Sterling, other places, things like that?
Well, I mentioned the project management. The thing about in the military is all walks of life. You serve in the military, and so you have to have you develop interpersonal skills. Dignity and respect is very important. Before that was a buzz term. When I was in, that was ingrained in us. So we had to work together with different types of people. When deployed overseas to a host country, you have to be sensitive to different cultures and values. And so it's just a great experience to serve in the armed forces because you kind of get that view of the whole world where you wouldn't otherwise.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No, I think that's great to hear. And it's interesting, like, to look at it from that perspective of not, all the different, types of trainings and other things, like you brought up education that you had, but going around the world and looking at other cultures and understanding their values and things like that. So it's definitely an interesting perspective, for sure. So, Darren, do you have any advice for veterans that are entering the workforce for the first time?
Well, the military is a very structured environment, with all, like I said, all of the rules and regulations, the chain of command. And so, it's sort of stepping off of the boat and trying to getting your sea legs back, because in the civilian world, not everything's documented and written, and you have a lot more discretion in your what you do. So there's a translation that has to happen. And the benefit of working with a lot of different people in the military helps a veteran, because they have to ask a lot of questions to learn how to operate in the civilian world in a different environment. Military veterans are very good at that, so that's why they're very successful when they get out. For the most part. So the translation of that environment, and then those skills, everything that's done in the military is done in the civilian world, because it's got to be, the troops have to be supported. All the logistics, the technology. Veterans today have a lot of technology skills, which is required in every workplace. Mm-hmm. So they have a lot to offer, and there's a lot of resources that the Veterans Affairs Department of Veterans Affairs offers veterans in transitioning. So I just think that that's the advice, and they get that advice. But I think it's just something to transition from that environment, and then trying to translate your skills that you learned. And sometimes, just thinking of getting ready for this show, I thought about, well, what did the Air Force help me in my current position, just like you asked me. And that, came back to my first encounter with contractors on the government side. Now I'm on the contractor side working to get government business. So there's a translation there that's key.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So this next question is good because, I was going to say, Jenna, keep your ears open, and probably other HR professionals are curious. So what are veterans looking for when working for an organization?
Well, I mentioned when I entered the Air Force needs come first. You belong to the military, and that's part of service to your country. At the same time, because of that, and you're with a large group of people, you became part of the family, the Air Force family. So veterans are looking for a home, a place where they belong, where they can provide value, be a part of something that's higher than themselves. In the case of Sterling, we're providing background screening services to companies and government clients to ensure a safe workplace, which is avid calling. So that's how I'd answer that.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. So I know you brought up Sterling, from like a business side of thing, but from like a cultural and value aspect, are you seeing what you just laid out as you've been here for 8 months?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things when I was the interview process to come to Sterling, one of the interviews was with people and culture, just to talk about Sterling values. And so I was really struck by that. The values were very real, and I've come to learn they're very real. It's about the people. The client is always in the room. When I first heard that the client isn't always in the room, I thought, as a proposal manager, I thought about being in the printing room with the proposal printed out and thinking about how is the evaluator, the customer, trying to look at it through their eyes, the cover page, how it's laid out. Are they finding the information they need to make their evaluation on our offer?
Yeah. I absolutely love that response because, and you'll see it on a lot of our episodes of Sterling Live, but you'll just hear about it when you talk to Sterling employees. Yes, we live by our values. And we actually shared something on social media yesterday. It was a stat around job seekers really wanting to relate to an organization's values. And they won't even apply to companies now that if you see their, I guess, their core values listed out, if you don't really agree with it or it's not up your alley, they're not going to apply. But that's a huge thing for Sterling. And it's something I believe in because all of our core values are stuff that I want to live by every single day. And you can live it at Sterling and outside of Sterling. So I think it's great for sure. So I absolutely love that response. And it's so great to hear in your short time here, you're already feeling like you're a part of a family and everything that we're giving to you is truly beneficial. So I love to hear that. I know Jenna loves to hear it too.
No, I do. I think it's funny, like your reaction, like, oh, people and culture talking about values. I think a lot of people who interview sometimes like, that's so, like, that's an interesting, like I'm talking to people in culture about values and the culture at Sterling. And I heard this earlier at a webinar, like people are looking for, they want to have a really great life and a job is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like that family feeling that you're talking about, Darren, they don't want like, I hope to have a job and my life is just part of it. It's
Right.
like flipped. And I'm glad that you're feeling that family, that sense of community and culture. Yeah, it can be weird during an interview and be like, why are we talking about this?
For sure. Well, clearly it's working. So I'm excited that we do that for sure. So Jenna, I want to stay with you here for the next couple of questions. So I do want to talk about recruiting and hiring veterans. So let's relate it to diversity and inclusion. So Jenna, why is diversity and inclusion so important when conducting our business at Sterling?
Yeah, Darren, you mentioned something that was like continues to be part of my experience. You said veterans were part of like 20% of, our world.
10%.
And 10%. So it's a high number. It's when you have a diverse workforce, you represent what's out there in the real world, which means that you come to decisions quicker, you understand problems quicker, you have more voices at the table, you can resonate, you can empathize with what's actually happening. And having a diverse workforce, veterans or whoever else is part of your diversity, definition is important to a business to get you to replicate what's out there in the real world. And same at Sterling, when we have a diverse workforce, we understand our clients better. We come to decisions quicker, as I mentioned, all of that. So very important part.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to bring up. And it's something that I've always, and I think we get some feedback from clients, we get feedback from, candidates that are going through the process that they do like how diverse we are. And it is helpful because if you're looking at it from a client and a candidate perspective, you're not having the same cookie cutter, approach to everything. You're not talking to the same person over and over. So it's important for us as a business to be strong, to have people from all, like, I think, Darren, you said this before, all walks of life working for you because you're going to be a better company. But to better serve our clients, we have to be this way because that's how you help and that's how you move things along. So I think that's a great point for sure.
And I just wanted to add, like, it's important for our employees to feel like we are diverse because Darren, like when you're coming to a company, I'm sure you don't just want to see family, you want to see other people like you, right? And having these conversations and getting it out there that people are there that are like you and you can connect with is also part of the experience I think about. Like when I go to, if I'm ever looking for a new company, like, do I see myself there? It's going to be an important question that we have to ask ourselves. And so, Darren, I'm happy that you're here talking with us today and representing our veterans.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So Jenna, let's look into more our recruitment strategy with veterans. So, and then also too, what Sterling is currently doing. So this question is a two-parter. So first part of the question is, how does Sterling currently support our veteran employees? And then also, can you explain what our veteran recruitment strategy looks like?
Okay, I might meld it into one. One
answer for you. One at a time, meld it into one. But
I think I don't think our strategy has been to be partnering with veteran organizations to make sure that we're not just building the relationship, but building a pipeline of veterans who feel like they could be part, if they're wanting to be part of Sterling, that they can be. But we are on this journey of making sure that we are a diverse workforce. And I think as we look towards like how can we strengthen our strategy, I think it's not just about like partnering with veteran organizations or pipelining. It's about continued conversations, right? Making sure that we understand what our veterans looking for so that we can create that family, that culture, that definition of what they're looking for in our workplace. So while we are doing things like partnering with veteran organizations and pipelining, there is more room for growth always on this journey. And I think that's really where we're heading towards as I've had conversations with our chief diversity officer around this and our talent acquisition leaders. It's also making sure that it's ingrained in all of our processes, right? Not just like recruiting or a D&I, it's like onboarding, talent development. It's like, it has to be like a strategy that is in every single process. So yeah, I think I answered that. I went a little bit on a tangent, but.
No, you did. And you brought up a great point that, we're seeing across many different areas when hiring right now. It's not just how you go out and recruit and you talk because you want to get me to work for your company and things like that. It's about onboarding. It's about your first 90 days at the company. It's about your first year at the company. It's about you actually being an individual that's moving the business forward. So like you had said, the strategy starts with recruitment, but it has to go in so many other different areas. So I think that's great. I think it's great that it's ever evolving. I'm happy to see, what is to come here for sure.
Ever evolving.
I think we've all learned that over the past year, that everything is just constantly changing, constantly evolving, but for the better, which is good. So one last question for you, Jenna. So clearly you've been in the HR space for a very long time. So what have you learned in your experience working with and hiring veterans?
I think, this is an interesting question. I'm just like, I'm reflecting right now on what I'm hearing from Darren. And I continue to hear a theme when I work with and talk with different veterans about this sense of family. Darren, you said you belong to the military, service to your country. And there's a correlation that we can make, right? Like as a business, as a culture, like we want our employees to feel that sense of belonging, to feel a sense of connection to our mission and that we're doing it together. And like, obviously can't crack the code by just talking to Darren, but I think what I've learned is that as HR professionals, you have to have the conversations. Like we have to have conversations like this. Mm-hmm. What is actually going to bring in our veterans, but also like that mentality for a company as a whole, for everybody to feel the same way. That is what the military has done. Like it would be nice to replicate that, and replication of that comes only through talking and understanding our veterans' experience. And like Darren, you talked about like leadership and project management, and it's almost like what did you experience during your time that we can kind of replicate in the workforce. So I guess if I had to boil it down, is like actually have the conversation, do the work to understand. Don't just implement things thinking that it's going to make an impact. Like do the work, understand how that culture is built.
Yeah, I really like that for sure.
I want people, all Sterling employees to leave and be like, wow, I belong to Sterling and I really connected to the mission. And time again, Darren, you have said it. Other veterans that I've talked to and worked with in the past, they all have the same mentality. It's amazing. It's quite amazing to experience on this end. So.
Yes. All right, so I want to take one quick moment here. If you are watching live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, if you have any final questions or thoughts for Darren and Jenna, please go ahead and put them in the comment section across these 3 platforms, and I'll get them over to them. With that being said, we're nearing the end of the episode, which always makes me sad because we always have such great conversations. And today was just, that's it. We did have a great conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to wrap up with final thoughts from the 2 of you, though. So Jenna, I'll kick it over to you to start. Just final thoughts from today's episode.
Yeah, I think, I've been nodding like this, but I don't think I've actually said thank you to you, Darren, and just thank you to all of our veterans. So I just want to end with that on my end.
I think it's a great way to end it. Darren, do you have any final thoughts for our audience today?
I think for Jenna, if you're hiring veterans, it would be good to have a veteran on your interview panel because they might offer some insight and ask questions.
That's brilliant, Darren. That's part of like that integrated strategy. Like, it's not just like, how do we get candidates in? Like, when they experience the recruiting, is the panel diverse? So yes, I will take you up on that offer for sure.
Yeah, because my first job out of the Air Force was as a federal probation officer, which is completely different from the military. But the interviewers were veterans, so they kind of had the idea about what to ask, and so that may be a suggestion there. And but really appreciate you inviting me to be on the show today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, of course. That is how I want to wrap up today's episode. Obviously, thanking my 2 amazing guests, Darren and Jenna, but most importantly, happy Veterans Day. Thank you all for your service, all veterans for your service. Truly, truly appreciate it. Obviously, thank you to Darren. Thank you to all of Sterling's employees that are veterans and everyone else out there watching right now. Thank you for your service. And that will conclude today's episode. As always, we are live mostly every week. I don't know, but no, we are mostly live every single week on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. This is Sterling Live, and I appreciate everyone tuning in live. If you're tuning in on demand as well, thank you as always for watching. But this was a great episode, and I hope to see you all again next time. So thank you and goodbye, everyone.